How we doing, everybody? We're here to talk about Doctor Sleep. So this is a movie based on a book by, of course, Stephen King. It is the sequel to The Shining, which is a lot of people's most favorite horror movie of all time. It's definitely way up there as far as what people think of when they think of a horror movie. I don't think really of it as a horror movie. I think it's more of a creepy movie. You know, the here's Johnny. I mean, Jack Nicholson was already famous, but I think it brought him to that next level as well. And here we go into Doctor Sleep. Now, this is going to be a spoiler review for the most part because again, it's very hard to get talked about this film without talking about the ending, which I found to be a little bit lacking. It's kind of like a lot of the Stephen King films. The ending is always kind of lacking. You know, like the whole ending of It was a major disappointment in both Alien Spider and well, I hear talk about It, but that's how I felt about it. So Ewan McGregor is the little boy who was in the original Shining, and now we continue his life. And they had a duplicate actress for Shelley Duvall's character, who played his mother, and thought it was pretty good. They did a good job, kind of matching. And Rebecca Ferguson did an amazing job as the villain. So there's these people that live in the woods. They're kind of like hippies or whatever else, but they've lived for hundreds of years, where they're going to take on new people, and they drink the essence of other people that have the Shining. So of course, Ewan McGregor's character has been off the grid. He's now a recovering alcoholic, and he gets he's trying to continue his life, but he gets these messages from another person that has a Shining, who's very, very powerful, and it's this little girl named Abra, played wonderfully by Kylie Curran. She did a great job, and she's only a teenager, and she did really an amazing job, and she really shined, no pun intended, in the scenes that she had. So of course this battle was going to take place between them all, and I really thought that Ewan McGregor's character was going to be the Luke Skywalker of the group, because they've kind of played him up, and he ends up taking in these ghosts from the first movie and locking them away in his mind. It's very odd that he's kind of like a Ghostbuster. So instead of putting them in a trap, he puts them in a trap in his head. I don't know. But again, that part was pretty odd. And they also matched his mentor from the first film as well. As you can see from the setup of this, that it's not really a creepy horror movie. It's more like an action film. It's like a thriller more than anything else. Because I wouldn't say there was a couple of jump scares, but the film wasn't scary at all. But again, it was more of a telling of what happened to the boy, which I can get on board with. For the most part, I was on board with the entire film. I thought it was really good, up to the point where they needed to do fan service. So the film stood on its own in the first 2/3. And then we get to the ending, and for some odd reason, we have to go back to the hotel. There's absolutely no reason story-wise we have to go back there, except for the fact that they say, well, there's stuff that's alive there, so we're going to bring Rose there, who's the villain, and we're going to be able to fight her there because there's all this extraneous stuff there. Yeah. Didn't buy it at all. So this fight takes place, and I guess all the power is still on out there, even though it's been 20 years and there's been nobody lived there, but the power is still there. I don't know. Either that or was Con Ed by Supernatural, which they kind of led to the fact that the power was based on the spirits. Okay, but most of these spirits were locked away in his head, so I don't know. But anyway, so he fights her, but he sets up the boiler room to explode. Lord knows why, because he had to assume that Abra was going to be able to escape. But anyway, Rose comes in and sees the blood coming down from her, and she was just like, eh. And it took away from the first movie, where this was a horror thing, whatever else. And she was like, eh, I don't really care. It just, the whole ending felt completely out of place. They had the maze and all this stuff, but the maze was in her head. So, or in his head, but she was in his head. But anyway, he could have done that anywhere. It didn't need to be in the hotel. If they wanted to bring in the maze, they could have done that very easily. But when he was there, he also got to see his father, who wasn't his father, so they had a look-alike of Jack Nicholson. None of that worked. None of it worked. It just felt like fan service, and it felt out of place. And if he was going to have that conversation with his father, he should have had it in his head at another place, where maybe one of those ghosts brought him mentally there. So anyway, he unleashes the ghosts, kind of like Ghostbusters, and they attack her, and then they attack him, and he basically sacrifices himself. So, Abra gets to live another day, but I don't know. I like Mike. It was directed by Mike Flanagan, who also directed Honing on Hill House, which I think I saw on Netflix. He wrote that also. He directed a few other things. He also did Oculus and one of the Ouija films. So I like him as a director, and I don't think it was the directing that was the problem, because a lot of the performances were very, very good. Rebecca Ferguson stuff, and working with the child, and Ewan McGregor, and they all did a really, really good job. So I have no problem with the acting whatsoever. It was how the story unfolded and how they ended it, for a lack of a better word. That's my review of Dr. Sleep, which I thought was kind of a cool name. But because he was basically in a hospice, and every time, which I thought was really cool too. They could have done a lot more with the hospice thing, but they didn't. I don't know. But anyway, so that's that. And if I was going to put a number to it, I would say it's probably a 7. So I found it good, but not great. And I think the ending just killed it for me. But anyway, share and have a great week. And remember to hit the subscribe and the little bell button, so that you can get notifications when I put up new videos. All right, have a great week, and I will see you on the flip side.